It's a little strange to sing with the YouTube channel, but it's beautiful because we want to rejoice. And also, if Maria has the flu, we can rejoice with what we have, okay? And I hope that in some days we will have a ministry of music able to sing also when one of the components is lacking. Okay, because we have to form a descendants exactly. But however, thank you for coming, and thank you for being here and praising the Lord all together. We have read the short version of the entire chapter 9 of the Gospel of John, okay? And I will refer to that long chapter that you can follow in your missalette, okay? But I want to start from the first reading. It is stated that David is chosen as king. Despite its smallness, God is reminding us that each one of us is chosen by him. And we have a very important mission. You have a very important mission, that is to reign in life. And baptized, you and me, we are king, as the priest proclaimed on every baptized child. And to rule, to govern our life, we need strength. And this strength comes from above, from the Holy Spirit. In fact, David is anointed to have the strength to conquer a great reign. And the psalm tells us that the Lord is our shepherd, the one that gives us strength. And it's interesting. The psalm says that the shepherd, beside restful waters, he leads us. In that, we can see a reference to the baptism, the waters, okay? And after the psalm says, you anoint our head with oil. In that, we can see a reference to confirmation. And again, the psalm says, he spreads the table before us. He set the table before us. In that, we can see a reference to the Eucharist. So they are the sacraments that fill us with the Spirit. And the work of the Spirit is very creative in you and in me. So wait for great changes during these Paschal festivities. Remember that the Holy Spirit today performs miracles like Jesus did, making a blind man see. I don't remember. Better. Do you remember the lady Francesca that gave some times ago a young lady from Italy, her testimony? His father was healed by a great problem in the eye. So the Lord is doing great miracles right now. However, we have to know that every one of us, when women and men, were born blind to the spiritual life. So we all need the Holy Spirit so that he can become the protagonist of our new life. And it's interesting that despite being judged as a sinner, the blind man experiences the light, recognizes it, and decides to follow it. That is the greatness of this model that the gospel showed us today. We need to rediscover that in order to reign and not to be defeated by the devil or cheated in life, we have to do the same this blind man did. First, we have to experience light. Jesus is the light of the world, says the word of the Lord. And Jesus, what does he tell you? To live with God's lifestyle. Jesus' style is to save the sinner with his uplifting mercy. He does not have the same mentality of the Pharisees that of retribution. They were following the theology of retribution. That means that a person is blessed when he does good and cursed when he does evil. If there is something wrong, someone has sinned. He or his parents, like the disciple was suggesting to Jesus. Who has sinned? And instead, Jesus teaches that God uses an evil situation, also a sin or a mistake, to show his glory, his mercy. And touched by his intervention, the Christian lives in the forgiveness and mercy of God every day. The Christian lives in this light that repeats in your heart, mercy I seek, not sacrifice. The important thing that Jesus indicates is not to diagnose sin, but rather to get involved in its work. In this gospel, it's said, it is necessary that I do the work of the one who sent me while it is day. And what it means? Do not think about your sin or that of others. Do the good you can. That is to experience light, to not be centered on sin, center on doing the good things that the Lord inspires you to do. And so it is as if Jesus said to his true disciple, should do the good possible out of mercy, not be focused on evil. This is to encounter the light. Second, the blind man recognized Jesus and testified of a God who became his friend and came close to him. He continues to repeat not theological formulas, but what Jesus has done for him. That is very important. He, the blind man, acknowledges this by confronting parents, Jews, and the possibility to be excluded from the synagogue. The blind man welcomes the light of God, the mentality of God, the novelty of God, a God that goes beyond the law. Remember that it was a Saturday when he was healed. A true disciple is able to go beyond the law. The third thing, the blind man followed Jesus, but from outside the synagogue. It's very interesting that the first church, the church of Saint John the Apostle, underlines that the first Christians were worshiping God outside the temple and the synagogue. What does it mean today? Means that we have to choose the way of God. As a worshiper in spirit and truth. Remember last week with the Samaritan? The same. The Father is seeking worshipers in spirit and truth. And now the gospel today repeat to every disciple of every age, don't be afraid to be free in worshiping and following your God. The blind man comes to adore Jesus without letting himself be conditioned by many formalities. He did in a spontaneous way. Do not let yourself be affected by a false religiosity made of appearance without the substance of love. Okay? I have to say that Pharisees were not loving people. Why? Because they excluded. That is their problem. Okay? The true worship of God doesn't exclude. Welcome a people in need and help him in his mistake, in his sin. So there are three things that make us disciples. First, experiencing the light of mercy. Second, deciding to do good, walking despite our sin and that of the other. Third, continuing to worship Jesus without being conditioned by a formalism that does not help. I invite you to let yourself be touched by the friendship of Jesus. Decide to assume his friendly lifestyle. Follow him in gratitude and docility, living free from the pattern of the past. Here in this church, we want to have this mentality, and we cannot do that with our strength. We need the Holy Spirit. So I invite you in this moment to stand up, to invoke again the Holy Spirit.